So I think what we've now come to really understand is that Paco Rabanne became almost synonymous with that 60s futurism in the fashion industry. So just at this same time that fashion was really opening itself up to becoming a bit more sexy, hemlines were getting shorter, and the free love movement was starting to kind of infect the world. So women were feeling like they can dress in a more provocative way. And Paco Rabanne really traded on that, but then introduced this level of, what if we take provocative dressing and really push it to the boundaries of what fashion can offer, or even what constitutes clothes. And his kind of métier, the sort of thing that he traded on, was removing fashion from the very typical boundaries of construction and sewing and craftsmanship and all the kind of couture techniques, and introducing things that had traditionally only been used in jewelry design or in metalwork. He introduced, these metal discs and plastic shapes and geometry, and he took away the sewing needle and he pieced them together with, aluminium wires, and created a dress almost like it was a framework instead of a garment. But one of the wonderful things about any avant-garde designer is that it's always so much more about artistry than it is about really wearing clothes. And that's something we've seen with the Paco Rabanne brand, as much as we, initially saw it start with Rabanne himself, that this was about creating something beautiful, something sculptural, something that made you look twice and wonder how it was even put together. This is not the type of fashion, these aren't the type of clothes that you sit around in front of the television wearing, or even go down to the shops. It wasn't really about comfort. It wasn't really about utility. It was giving the world a piece of art that was wearable. Actually an incredibly impressive fashion background when you look back on it now, but at the time this was quite a lowly job to have. And then he became a jewelry designer and worked for Balenciaga and for Dior and Givenchy, and you can see that sort of expertise in jewelry design and working with metals and plastics, which has then obviously hugely influenced his design work when it came to launching his own line and the dresses that he then became famous for. He actually produced his first collection in 1964, but it was his 66 collection, the 12 Unwearable Dresses, which really became famous and opened people's eyes to what he was doing. And I think even giving the collection that title was such a statement of intent, that this wasn't about creating homely functional clothing. This was about art and pushing design, introducing unconventional fabrics and constructions. This was meant to shock and awe, not to make anyone sit in their comfort zone. And the collection, the dresses from that collection are beautiful. There's only a few that you can still really see these days, but they're kind of like a sexy armor made of these big pieces of hammered metal. And and people have said that he has liked to reference the past as well as pushing the boundaries of what futurism is. So the armor, the sexy armor description is quite apt, is quite fitting. There's something a little bit Joan of Arc about it, while also being this kind of allusion to this like fembot character that has now existed in sci-fi for the last couple of decades.